Hello there, welcome to Craft with Fee, and welcome to week 9 of our 12 weeks of Christmas stitch along using the gorgeous TILDA Maple Farm fabrics. Now you might notice that this one here is not Maple Farm. That's because this week's project was inspired by my 22-year-old daughter who still lives at home. She is a bookworm and she asked me to make her some book sleeves, which they just simply hold a little book and you can have it in your handbag or wherever and it protects your bag. Now this is a smaller version of the one we're going to be doing today, but it is the same sort of thing. So what I've done is I've taken a fat eighth of the Maple Farm, and that's what we're going to use. But first off, I've used a piece of pink linen. Now if you bought the 12 weeks of Christmas kit, you will have enough pink linen left over to stitch this project. I've also popped some parlan on the back so that I could stitch it, and I've used the iron-on transfer in the pack. But I will also pop the Stitchery file in a link in the description box down below so that you can download it and stitch it yourself. Now I've done it all in back stitch with a little bit of satin stitch in the centre of the flowers. And the colours that I've used is this beautiful aqua green in a Cosmo 564. I've also used Cosmo 772, which is a lovely mustard colour. I've also used a beautiful pink from Cosmo 104, and that's the one I sat and stitched the flower centres with. And then the petals on the flowers, I used a DMC 3041, which is a muted plum colour, which goes very well with the muted tones of Maple Farm. Okay, so what I've done after I've stitched it is I've then cut it down and I've used my pinking wheel. Now, did you know that you can get a pinking wheel for your rotary cutter? Mine's a bit loose there actually, I should tighten it back up. So what you do is you actually exchange your normal rotary cutter blade for a pinking blade, and it cuts it with a pinking edge. So you get that beautiful effect there. Now if you're looking to buy these, kittyrosecottage.com has them in the haberdashery section, and they're fantastic. They're really, really good to get that lovely extra bit of I suppose, you know, well, it's the pinked edges, but it sort of gives you a different look as well. You don't just have the straight edges, you've got this beautiful pinked edges. So I've cut mine to be 5 inches in length by 4 inches across. So you'll need to do that and set that aside for the moment. Now what you'll also need to do is to cut that fat eighth into 2 pieces, 8 inches in width by 10 inches in length, and you need to have 2 pieces like that. And then you need to cut the lining to be the same. Now I'm just using a plain white quilter's homespun here, so you can do the same thing. I've also cut some parlan for the back of my pattern fabric, and that of course is also 8 inches by 10 inches. So we're going to take the one of these to the machine so we can decide which one is going to be our front and which way we want to have the pattern going. It doesn't really matter with this particular pattern that we're using. And what I like to do is to find the centre. So to find the centre, of course, we fold it in half, and then we fold it in half again. And then that way we've got some idea of where the centre of our piece is. And then we can centre our stitchery on there. Now I'm just going to pin that, and then I'm just going to top sew around about 1/4 inch in from the edge, and then that will give me my lovely stitchery on the front. So I'll go and do that and I'll come back. And there we go, we've got it all stitched down. So what we're going to do now is to place the other piece on top so that both right sides are together. And then we're going to clip all around on 3 sides, and we're going to sew it all around with about 1/4 inch seam all the way around. And there we go. Now we're going to do the same thing with the lining. But on the lining, we are going to be leaving a gap. So we're going to be leaving a gap of around 3 inches on one side. So we're going to sew from the top down to that mark, and then we're going to sew from that mark down to the bottom, all the way along the bottom here, and then all the way up the other side. And then we'll come back. And there we have it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pop our thumb over the corner of our stitching on the lining and the outer, and we're just going to snip those corners just to get rid of a tiny bit of that bulk there. It just allows you to have those perfect corners when you turn, and you've probably heard me say that so many times now that you're completely sick of it, but it does help. your end result. So we're going to turn the outer piece through to the right side, and then we're going to use a pokey tool, and in my case it's going to be a paintbrush, and we're going to just poke those corners out so that we get lovely right angles. Now you can take this opportunity to give it a bit of a press, just so that you make sure that you get those beautiful corners. But then we're going to get our lining, which is still on the wrong side, and we're going to put our book bag inside our lining. And you will have seen this from the project last week. It's the same thing. We're just going to match the sides. So by doing that, we are turning the seam so that one's going one way and the other one is going in the opposite direction. I'm just going to pop a pin in there, and then we'll do the same thing on the opposite side here. Make sure that they're in opposite directions. And then we can pop some clips or pins around the top. The pins are handier for me at the moment. They're right next to me, so we'll use those. And we're just going to sew all the way around the top with a 1/4 inch seam. And there we have it. So now we're going to turn it through the opening in the lining. So we just pull the bag through and the lining so that it's in the correct way. Poke those corners out. Okay, so we're going to iron closed our little opening here and stitch it down, and I'll be back. Okay, so the opening is now closed, and we're just simply going to pop the lining into our book bag. And then we're going to take it over to the ironing board and get that top there beautifully lined up so that the lining is sitting inside beautifully. And then we're going to sew around the entire top of this bag with a 1/4 inch seam all the way around here. And there we have our lovely book sleeve. Isn't it gorgeous? Just beautiful. Perfect for anybody. Most people like to read books. It would make a lovely gift, and they can just pop their little book inside. It's nice and safe and sound. Pop it in their handbag or whatever, or even just leave it on display in its gorgeous little covering. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed today's project. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to click the subscribe button. I'll catch you next time. Bye for now. Now, before I close off the video, I wanted to show you another version that I've made for a really good friend. I've made her a beautiful bag for a planner, and you can see there she's got I gave her a little bookmark as well. But this is done using some of the digital designs from Kerry Ann, who's over at Shabby Art Boutique. So what I did was I printed onto fabric, and the same with the little butterfly here, I made him into 3D. I'm going to be doing a project in the coming weeks using a printing on fabric method, so I'll show you how to do it then. But I just wanted to come in and show you how you can do it just a little bit different to a stitchery. You can use your imagination and do whatever you want, really. So I've just beaded up through the centre of the little butterfly there and popped a little 3D flower, and it's gorgeous. And of course it's using some beautiful TILDA fabric. So that's it for now. I'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.